Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is nice and sunny here in Texas. Finally, we've had rain and icky weather for the last few days, and the sun's shining. So I felt like it was a good time to come out here in my kitchen where I'm painting today and show you guys how I created kind of an old world finish on a French provincial dresser. I did that about 3-4 weeks ago. If you remember my post, it's a very curvy French provincial Drexel dresser, and I kept some of the wood on it. The drawers and the top were the natural wood, and painted the body. So I picked up these nightstands. I have 2 of them, and they don't match obviously exactly, but I feel like it really complements that. I wish I could show you that piece. It's in my bedroom. I did keep that piece. And so these are actually going to go in our bedroom as well. I'm not sure if both of them or just one of them, but so I'm going to try to kind of duplicate that look. I never can, if I create something, it is very unlikely that I'm going to be able to recreate it again exactly the same, but that's okay with me. I'm just going to have it complement. I am going to use the same colors. Now this wood is different. I got so many questions on how I did that wood, and I just got super lucky. It's a really pretty oak finish. I actually grabbed one of the drawers so you can see it. So after it was sanded there, let's see if you can see how pretty that finish is. After I sanded it down, it was already really pretty, but I wanted to just even out the finish. So all I did was a little bit of basically whitewashing and wax. See, there's kind of a line here in the gold. That's just brown wax, and then gold gilding wax. That's it. And I didn't do anything special. So I think it just takes getting the right type of wood. Not every wood is going to turn out this way, but I found that I can change almost any wood to look like this color with paints and stains. More so paint. I like to paint a lot for staining more than like oil-based stains, because if like you pick out an oil-based stain, you put it on, and you don't like it, you can't just like sand it off right away or remove it very quickly. I mean, you can remove it with mineral spirits, but you can't sand it all back off if you don't like. You have to wait like 4 or 5 days till it dries, and then I got to do it again. So I like to use paint a lot of the time to stain my pieces. So let me show you what these drawers look like when I sanded them down. I thought it was oak, but it's pine. And on video, see, it's really pale. It's pine. I mean, it's nothing super special, but it does have a pretty grain to it. But it's not exactly what I want for this piece. It's too light. So I want to try to make it look like that other drawer. So I'm going to show you a drawer that I did with just paint and water. So this is what the drawer looked like before. And then here's one I did, which I'm not certain I'm entirely in love with it, but do you see? I don't know if I can, hold it. Let me see if I can hold up both of these at the same time. Okay, do you see the difference? Okay, this has just more, it's just very pale, almost yellowy, and this just has that more like driftwood, beachy color to it. All I added was a little bit of paint into some water and just did a wash. And I knew if I didn't like it, you can just keep layering that until you get the effect or the color you want. However, you gotta do it in thin coats, because if you just, you're gonna lose your grain. If you put too much paint, you're not gonna see that grain, right? So I like this better. I'll finish the wood when I'm done with this, with the body, and determine if this needs to be a different shade. But that's what, and I'll show you guys how I did that. It's really easy. Okay, so let's get to the body. So if you recall, it had this like old world finish, and I just did that with sponges and a variety of paints. I start with a base coat, so this obviously has been sanded, primed. I don't know why I chose a base coat of Sawmill gravy. I knew I didn't want white, but it just seemed like a good base. I mean, I always base paint everything before I start on a finish. And then now we're just gonna layer on paints. And like I said, I may end up having more white show on this one than blue. The main color on that other one was the Savannah Mist, Dixie Belle Savannah Mist, which is this really pretty blue. Light blue. So we're gonna start with that. Again, just sea sponges from Hobby Lobby, cut up. I cut up, like you get like a pack of them, and then I just cut them up into smaller pieces. And I like these for texturizing and doing an old world finish because of the texture of the sponge. You can use like car wash sponges, but they don't give quite the same like texture as these do. So that's why I like them. So I just have a plate. I'm gonna basically just put every color on my plate. So I'm gonna be using Savannah Mist by Dixie Belle, French Linen, also by Dixie Belle, Sawmill Gravy, which was my base. I don't know that I'll use that much of it, but if we'll probably do a wash over the whole thing. So I'll add on a bunch of color, and then to get that kind of authentic looking old world finish, I do a wash, usually of vinegar and paint and water, and it creates this kind of crackled, just again, old looking finish. And coffee bean, love coffee bean. It's like my favorite for adding just dimension. And you'll find like I'll start adding coffee bean and then move on to my next color, and all the coffee bean gets like covered up, but that's just, it's just adding texture. The more texture you're adding, it's visually very, very neat looking. Sawmill Gravy yes, it does have a little bit of a gray undertone. I really love Sawmill Gravy. Like, it is probably my favorite white. It's gorgeous. That, and I do like drop cloth. Drop cloth is a little more yellow undertones, but the Sawmill Gravy definitely has gray undertones to it. Okay, let me see. I'll just squirt some of this stuff on this plate here. So see, I'm just putting a little bit of paint right on my, what have you guys done? Okay. And I'm kind of impatient. Usually I try to wait between my layers. Like, I'll start adding one color and try to let it dry before I sponge another color over it. Because if you sponge colors on top of colors and they're still wet, then they just get this muddied. You don't really see the individual colors. Since French Linen. And then I'll just add a little bit of my Sawmill just in case. I usually start off like each color has its own sponge, but then I find by the time I'm done, like all my sponges just are like, they have multiple colors on them. I don't really ever have a plan when I go into this. I just start working it, and if I don't like something, obviously, let it dry and come back and change up my colors. I always wear gloves because this is so messy. It's all over the place when you do the sponging. Okay. So like I said, that piece was mainly Savannah Mist, but I'm actually going to start with my probably coffee bean and kind of French Linen, and just kind of add the dark areas first and then go over it with the Savannah Mist. So I like to have an extra plate or something else because I dab it into there, but then I try to kind of remove some of the excess so it's not just like a bunch of paint all in one spot on the sponge. Oh, might lose my camera. Hold on, let me lock this down. Okay. Oh, and that one doesn't even have the paint on it. I'm like, where's the paint? Really can't mess up this finish. At least I feel like it's a hard finish to mess up. If I don't like it, I have found when I'm doing this, it'll look really ugly, and I will start to freak out. I'm like, this looks terrible. What was I thinking? And I just keep sponging. Like, I just keep going with it. And eventually it starts to actually come together, but it can look kind of scary at first. Oh, I probably should have taped underneath of here so I don't get it on the wood, but that's okay. I'll just try to be careful. And I'm probably not gonna do the whole thing. Like, you notice I'm kind of have a pattern going. I just, when I come up with that pattern, I guess I think of the way like light hits a piece and where it would age naturally. And that's gonna be in these deeper crevices, right? Along like your edges and underneath the berries. That's kind of where usually you want more dimension. And then I do lighter kind of up through the center and up towards the top. I still add some of this, but I'm not gonna get as heavy. And who knows, I may layer and be like, I need more coffee bean all throughout the whole thing. I don't like it. So I just know from experience doing this a few times that this is kind of the look that I like. It's easy when you're painting for yourself, and this will be my piece of furniture. It's easier for me to just be a little more relaxed with it and go with the flow, whereas if I'm selling it, I tend to let that get into my head and be like, well, you know, maybe I should do more of this because people really like light colors. And I'm not going to get too heavy over here with it, just kind of at the bottom. And this piece has this little drawer that pulls, or not a, I don't know what you call it, like a little desk area, like it pulls straight out. I'm probably gonna decoupage some paper on that. Okay. These are dry sponges, by the way. I did not dampen them or anything. I just did a wardrobe armoire for a client, and it was entirely this type of look. It was huge, and I just layered and layered paints. Like she requested white, which I dread. If you know me, I really don't like to paint white. And it started white, and then I just started throwing like pinks, and I was mixing a little bit of brown and pink into some water, and anyway, you'll see it soon. It turned out really pretty. It's very soft and romantic, but it still had this monotone, not monotone, what am I trying to say? It still looked like it was light in color, but you could tell it wasn't white. It was more creamy and pinks, and it was just really pretty. So you can still achieve light colored furniture while not having to put just white, you know. Get this back side real quick. My allergies are killing me this morning with all the weather we've had, with all the rain. Must have stirred up something, because all my kids have got runny noses and we're coughing and sneezing. Okay, how's it look? It looks awesome, right? So normally I take my blow dryer and dry it. So let's see if this other side, because now I'm going to basically just start layering kind of my next color. This looks pretty dry already, actually. It's a good thing about chalk paint, it dries quick. So I'll just keep the coffee bean aside and start on, let's start to kind of mix in the French linen. And I'm not trying to cover entirely all the coffee bean, obviously, but we just want to start really giving it a lot of good texture. The crevices I don't worry about because I'll take some wax. Because like right now you can see a lot of white and I can't really get the sponge in there. But that's when at the end, you know, I love using waxes. I just know if I can't achieve the finish I like with paint, it's okay. I move on to waxes or something else. It looks like I'm just covering the coffee bean, which I kind of am. Going in the same areas which I put the coffee bean on. But I'm going to move up a little bit more with this French linen. It's my favorite finish to create because I just feel like it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to worry if I like nick it or run into it. It's just, that's the look, right? It's the look. So now I may grab a piece of tape. Sorry guys, I'm gonna run to my workspace because I'm gonna lip. Yeah, I don't want to get a bunch of paint up on that wood there. Let me grab some tape here. Okay, I'm just gonna put it. Probably do that all around the piece real quick. Sorry, I should have done this to begin with. Did all that work to sand off the finish, so I don't want to really get paint all over that wood right now that I have to then take back off. Okay. Okay, so again, base painted in Sawmill gravy. I've layered coffee bean with some sea sponges, and now I'm layering French linen, all by Dixie Belle. It's rolling away from me. It's a little trickier to get up in that crevices, but it's okay. All right, are you seeing it come together a little bit, guys? It looks really scary, I know. Oh, I realized I missed a spot back here. Worst is when you get done and then you look and you see like a leg that has like just the original base paint on it and nothing else. Okay. arm gets really tired doing this. Like when I did that armoire, I had to do it. It took like 5 days because my arm was just killing me. It was really tall. Even though you're not using a lot of muscle, like that motion, that same motion, repetitive motion, is. I got really tired. My arm got tired. Okay, looking pretty good. We're just gonna now switch up to the Savannah Mist, I think, here. Has this like very stone look to it. It's pretty. Okay. Now my legs, I'll probably flip this on its top at some point and just kind of, actually I probably may add some gold gilding wax to the very bottom of these legs, but I'm not too worried about not getting them right now with the texturizing. So I might need to dry this. I'm gonna grab my below, well, actually just a couple spots. It's a little thicker, which I like, because again, that's what gives it its texture, the more layers you add. Now we're gonna go to Savannah Mist. I'm really gonna probably layer this one on pretty heavy because I wanna really see the blue. And then if it's too much blue, which usually it is at the end for me, I just kind of do a wash with probably the Savannah Mist just to pull back that white again. I actually wish I would have recorded myself when I created the other one, because honestly I barely remembered what I did. I just kind of started, and then I finished and I didn't write anything down. I didn't write any colors down, and I had to really go back and try to remember what I did. So this may not end up anything like the other one. I don't know. I'm trying to really get in these corners a bit more here. Pouncing on it, it's rolling away from me. pretty happy with that. I like the look of that. I'm gonna let that dry, and then I probably will maybe come back and kind of, again, layer on a little more, probably French linen and the drop, or the, what am I trying to say, the coffee bean, I think. We'll let that dry and see what that looks like. It looks lighter to me than the piece in my room, but again, the lighting looks, it's bright in here right now, so I might want it to be a little deeper. What really starts to, I feel like when I'm not liking something and I don't know what it needs, I honestly just pull out my waxes. I feel like I can play more with the waxes. If I don't like it, it's easier to remove it than paint. So I really like to use waxes, the gilding waxes and the water-based waxes, to just add dimension, like in these, you know, creases here and along the details. Like when you start adding that stuff, that's really, for me, what starts to make the piece kind of come alive and look really nice. Of course, adding, you know, your hardware, and I always struggle. I always, when I have my hardware like ready and available, because when I'm struggling on placement of, like, say, transfers or something, once I put the hardware on, it totally answers a lot of my questions. Like, okay, no, that doesn't need more, because the hardware is so pretty, it doesn't need more. And that's kind of where, what I'm thinking with this piece. Like, I put these drawers back in and feel like it needs something else, right, on those drawers. But then if I put the hardware on, I feel like, oh wow, it's enough. It is plenty. So I'd recommend just having your hardware handy, as well as waxes and other elements besides paint. Because again, those things are easy to remove. Where paint, you don't like the color. I mean, yeah, you can paint over it, but I wouldn't want to paint over all this and start again, I guess. So we'll see how quickly. I don't know how long I've been on. It doesn't tell me how long I've been on. I'd like to, like, actually get through this piece entirely on live with you guys. I think I probably could. Might be here an hour or so. So you guys need to keep me company. So if you're here, comment. Hey, Amy. Yes, I know that I tend to rush things and want to get it done so I can see the finished result, but This is definitely one of those finishes. I was just saying that, like, when you start, it can look really bad, and then you worry, like, what did I do? But I just find, I repeat in my head, just keep sponging, just keep sponging. I don't like it, I keep sponging, and eventually you'll get the look you want. Or it'll just speak to you, it'll come together, you know. The hardest part for me is always choosing colors. Like I try to choose colors that complement each other, but then sometimes it doesn't turn out how you think. So sometimes grabbing an unexpected color, like say coffee bean, not a lot of people wouldn't think maybe to grab that. But again, when you're thinking old world, I mean, I think of just patinaed, rusted, you know, it's been outside, so it's going to have so many different colors, right? So browns and coppers and golds with hints of, you know, like that, like I was saying, that driftwood, that brown and creams. That's what kind of keeps it kind of soft, is throwing in some of those lighter colors. These feet are a little harder to get into. Okay, put the back first here. I didn't take off the back, but don't worry, if I get some on here, you can take a little bit of denatured alcohol and that takes your paint right back off. I should tape, I just get lazy, to be honest. This piece is for me. I'm not really concerned. I like when I paint for myself because I feel less like pressure to make it look perfect. Whereas when I paint for other people, it takes me a lot longer. What was somebody, I love the colors. Oh, thank you. What's under the sawmill? Oh, just the original finish. It's pine. I didn't sand it. I sanded it, scuff sanded it, cleaned it, scuff sanded it. It had a shiny, you know, varnish over it. I did sand the top and the drawers down to raw wood. So it was just wood, painted it sawmill gravy. Now we're layering coffee bean, French linen, sawmill gravy, and Savannah Mist. So now I've layered them all on here, but I'm not entirely happy with it. I feel like it still needs more. Again, like in here, in my opinion, it should be nice and dark, right? It's the deeper areas of the piece. So to me, this should all be dark, and it's hard to get in there. So what you can do is you can, I have a couple different techniques. I'll probably just use wax, but I can show you a technique. In fact, I might need to grab a different brush, maybe a smaller one, but I just take a brush and I dry brush in these corners like the coffee bean. So let me go grab my smaller brush here. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so it's gonna take a little bit. I'm at this Dixie Belle, I don't know what this one is, the flat, small, I think. Just keep it dry, and I'm gonna take a little bit, just very little of my coffee bean. I'm gonna wipe most of it back off my plate. Actually, I probably should have got an even smaller, like an artist brush or something, and then I'm just gonna kind of get in these crevices. Again, you can get the same effect with waxes if you don't want to use a wax because you want to top coat it with a poly. Because if you use a wax, you have to wait so many days for it to dry before you can put your top coat. I don't like waxes for top coats. I like waxes for accenting. So I usually use a polyacrylic, and you have to wait so many days for that wax to really dry before you can apply the polyacrylic. So again, just a coffee bean. Can you already see? Can you see the difference that's making? Just getting kind of up in those crevices. So that I just want to show you two different ways to kind of achieve the same effect. This is what gives it kind of that definition I was talking about, making it look truly like an old world finish. Just keep that brush dry. If they get too much paint or it's not gonna look like this. Like, I know you can't see it on probably on camera, but it's all the layers I've placed on it has given it this great texture. So when you dry brush over it, you see like these little bumps and just, it's really neat looking. So that's kind of how you dry brush. And then if that's too much, you know, I'm probably just gonna keep kind of layering some paints. This blue on camera looks really, really light. It's a little darker in person, but I think I'm gonna just now kind of get like crazy and just like, I'm gonna dip in the coffee bean, I'm gonna dip in the French linen, and I'm just gonna kind of layer, because those two colors mixed are pretty too, right? So they don't make this ugly muddy color. So I just want to add a little bit more, again, dimension to it. I won't go as heavy this time, just a lighter. And I'm, like I said, I'm just kind of, my sponge is dipping in multiple colors here now, so. Okay, so let me know when you get bored watching this, and I'll switch over. We can work on the wood if you want to see. It seemed like a lot of people messaged me about how I got that wood look. And it really, I just got lucky. I chose a really nice piece. As soon as I saw that pop up on Marketplace for like 60 bucks, I was very excited. Because it's a rare find anyway, and a really good quality piece of furniture. So, and so is this one. This one's nice. It's just pine, which is a nice wood. I really like oak. It just finishes so beautifully. And you can do so much with oak. I feel like you can't really mess up oak when it comes to staining it. Like, it just takes on bleach really well, takes on a lot of pretty colors when you stain it. Ooh, that's a lot of coffee bean right there, so it's okay. I feel like now I'm starting to finally get the layers that I'm not feeling like I'm seeing just my base paint now under it. So I'll keep layering this, and then probably go back over it again with the Savannah Mist, just adding a little more blue back into it. Like I said, right now I'm literally just done dipping the same sponge in pretty much all three colors, the Savannah Mist, the coffee bean, and I'm just really layering it on. I'm all over the place. Okay. So I'm happier with that. I'm probably gonna go back and add a little bit more blue, the Savannah Mist, and then I think we'll do that vinegar wash like I was talking about. Let me let that dry and maybe move on. Just keep doing the same finish for a bit here. We're almost there. It's getting there. Let's stop and do the dry brushing again over here. Yes, this piece is just sitting on those wheels. Yep. I put these little wheels under the heaviest of furniture and wheel furniture all over the place. You can find them at, I got mine at Harbor Freight. I want to say like $5 a piece, somewhere in there. Actually, normally when I'm not doing videos, I don't even bother to put them on the wheels. I'm terrible. I just get up a lot and move around, but this makes it much easier, for sure. So again, just dry brushing in a little bit coffee bean these corners. Just I don't like these areas in here to be really light. I want them to be a little darker. You can achieve this look too with waxes. keep sponging a little bit more, and then we can move on to the wood and maybe the vinegar wash. I'll get the other side dry. I'll try doing a little bit of the vinegar, see what that does to it. Vinegar and water. I just made a whole new color because I'm putting coffee bean and French linen right now. I just combined the two on the sponge and it's kind of made a whole different color. I have French linen here. Let me see if I can get a little bit more. I actually kind of like when I mix the Savannah Mist on like my sponge with the coffee bean. I like that look. Might need to grab a little bit more paint here. So that's what I mean by sometimes I like add a color and let it dry before I layer on the next. But by the end, I'm usually just melding the colors together a little bit more by letting my sponge have basically all the colors on it. It starts to become less like looking like I sponged it. Does that make sense? Like, I know we're using sponges and you're going for that, but I don't necessarily like the, how do I say it? The splotchy like sponge look. I like it a little more uniform. So that's why I just kind of keep layering until I get that uniform look, while it's still having multiple colors on it. Yeah, so I'm liking this better on this side. Now I'm kind of just adding more Savannah Mist here. It's pretty. I'm liking that a lot better. I don't know that it really needs like the vinegar wash, but I'm going to do it anyway just to see if I can show you guys what I mean about what the vinegar kind of does when you add it. It just gives it this, the vinegar causes a separation in the paint. So you add paint and water and vinegar together, and whatever paint you're adding into that vinegar mix, when it hits the piece, it kind of like separates. And you can get really drippy, or you can just do more of a wash where it's not super drippy. And it just causes this, it causes, yes, drips, which you're going to get if you just did water, but that's just going to be a drip, okay? Whereas the vinegar, it drips and then it like almost like cracks. It has this crackling to it because the vinegar causes the separation in the paint, making it look like that cracked. So that's pretty. I think I like that. No, I think I like that. So we just need to do maybe a little bit more over here. I promise we'll get to the fun part. I know this part's not very fun to watch, but I got a lot of requests for me to show you how to do this, so you're getting the whole shebang. Right now, again, I'm just taking my French linen and my Savannah Mist and almost just layering those two together over this. Let me go back over here because this one wasn't bad. I think I just need more Savannah Mist, a little bit more. Maybe make it a little bit brighter, kind of centrally. And then I may have to grab my blow dryer, guys, and just dry it really good before we do the vinegar over it. A little bit unprepared today. Feet are just, I need to add some, you can still see the base color because I can't really get into these areas really well with a sponge. You know what sponge was I using? I don't remember. Oh, I want more Savannah Mist here. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna just dry it really quick and let's do the vinegar and let's work on the drawers next. Okay, it's looking good, right? A little spongy in here, see what I mean? Like you can really see where it's, so that's okay. I'm just gonna really try to do a lot of more waxes in here anyway. It's hard to not have that look like splotchy. It's hard to get the sponge in there. But I'm pretty happy with that. So let's see how that was really easy. And I've done pieces like this before, and I left more of the base color towards the top and just very little sponged up into it. Almost like it just, like it got aged at the bottom, kind of coming up, and the full thing had an aged jet or something. That's kind of the look I was going with that piece. So you could do that too. You don't have to do the whole thing like this. Just some ideas. Let me grab the blow dryer and dry this. that should be good. It does need to be pretty dry. You don't want, because when you go to do your the wash, that's really wet. It's like a wet mess. You don't want the colors and then start like melding together when you do your wash. So I think I'm done with the sponging. However, you know, again, I may start doing the wash and find out I need to do more sponging. I don't really have any, I don't know, pattern. I don't like it, and I pick up sponges again. Oh, Karen, you switched to your laptop to see better. Yeah. Sorry, I hope this is good lighting for you guys. My ring light is not working for some reason. I don't know what I did. I think I got paint in it. Like I got paint in the tip of the USB port thing. So, okay, let's do the wash. Okay, so just get some distilled white vinegar. I always have this stuff on hand. I love vinegar. I use it for everything. I wash my hardware with it. Just always have it on hand. I clean my coffee machine with it. I mean, just have it on hand. And then this is distilled water, but regular water is fine. And a brush. Doesn't matter what brush. You can use a chip brush. You can use that brush. Doesn't need to be nice. I'm literally just, and probably lots of rags because it's very messy. And this part is, you know, I'm going to start with my base again, which was the Sawmill gravy, and do a wash. Although it's pretty light, I don't know that it needs much. I don't know. We'll see. I may just end up adding a little bit of chocolate or something into it. I don't measure. I really don't have any clue how much to use for distilled vinegar. I just start pouring it. So there, that was my water. Actually, probably I need a little less water. Vinegar, not quite as much vinegar as I did water. And then just the spoon that has my Sawmill gravy that I was stirring, I'm going to use the same spoon. So there's hardly any paint. I may need a little bit more paint than that. Where is my Sawmill gravy? I don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it still should keep it very watery. Very watery. I'm going to add a little bit more paint though. So just a little bit more paint. I'm doing a little more paint. So what happened when I was doing the last piece is I had this water vinegar paint mixture and I had done it on the body, and then I was like, oh, let me see what it looks like on the drawers. So I just threw a little wash over the drawers, and that's all I did. You don't need the vinegar for the wood. I just had it handy, and I was like, let's just try a wash on it. I'm trying to get some of this paint off the spoon. It's sticking to it. Lots of rags, because if you get some drips, you don't, like, if it's too drippy, I'm just going to splot it, or dab it, I mean. Okay, so just a brush, doesn't need to be wet or anything, just, it's going to get wet now. Stick it in your bowl or your cup, and I'm just going to start to brush it on and let it kind of drip and fall. And you can do as many layers of this as you want. I'll let the first one dry and then, you know, think it needs a little bit more. In fact, I do think it needs more paint still than this. Can you see it? You see what it, I'm gonna see if I can get the camera a little closer. What it's doing with the paint. You'll see it more when it dries. It has that separation I was talking about. I probably should have done a little less water and vinegar and more paint, but it's okay. Keep adding paint. See, I got more paint on my brush this time. And I just let it get really drippy and just settle in these cracks and crevices. Still feel like it needs a little more paint. So put more paint, less water and vinegar. Otherwise it just looks like you just put water on the piece. So you definitely need to have the paint part. But I'm gonna let these, I'm gonna bring you in just a second. I'm gonna get a little more paint. I'm actually just gonna dip my brush right in some of the sawmill gravy and dip it a little bit more in the water and almost kind of blot off some of this paint so it's not too much. I don't want to cover up. I'm not trying to cover up all the sponging I did. I'm just trying to get this aged look. Okay, it's kind of doing it right here. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. What I also like to do is just kind of get your brush really wet and just kind of do this and let the drips fall. Okay, so I'm gonna bring you in so you can see what I mean. Well, you'll see it more when it dries, the crackling I was kind of talking about. But I'm definitely discovering more paint and not quite that. I don't think I'll even use all that. So you don't need very much. Like I probably should only put it like that much. And this is probably a bit much right now as far as the wash. I just wanted you guys to be able to really see what I was talking about. And I'm dipping my brush back in the paint again just to get more paint on it. I mean, this is a cool look, but it's kind of a bit much. So I'm trying to wait for it to kind of dry and see what, bring you in a little closer. I want to get some more up in here. I'm gonna end up doing wax or something. In fact, where's my dry brush? Let's too much white right there. I don't want all that white. I don't know, that's kind of cool looking. So do you see what I mean? Do you see? I don't know how to get you guys too much closer without knocking everything over. It just has this really pretty crackled look to it. As it's drying, I'm really starting to see it. And like right here bugs me, like right, where's my sponges? I feel like I was seeing too much blue right there. But that's kind of pretty. It might be a bit much. I love how it's settling down in these crevices. I actually really like that. I'm gonna leave it. Oh, here it's really cracking, like really cracking. It's really pretty. Down here. Keep feeling like I want to add a little bit more brown or something right there. Or maybe I just need to do a little bit more water over it. I should dry that. I'm gonna let that dry and then I'll do a little bit more over that, but this is so, oh my gosh, so pretty. You can really see. I'm gonna try to get you closer. Okay, right, hold this camera, right here. Do you see that? And like right here, it's all separating. It's really pretty. I'll fix that spot in a little bit and let that dry. But I don't feel like it needs much more of a wash, just a little bit more. So I was gonna let that dry and then I'm not listening to myself. Okay, let's turn it and do the other side. While that dries, I'll do a little bit here, but not quite as much. have your rags handy because I'm dripping this all inside of here. I'm trying to keep it dry. I actually think it works better. I've been dipping my paint, like dipping it into the vinegar mixture, so I get a more saturated amount of paint, I guess. I kind of like that look. I feel like, okay, I got too much paint, and then just don't try to wipe off your brush and just take off some of the paint and do more of the vinegar, the water mixture. I'm like going real heavy with it. You don't have to go this heavy. You can just do thinner layers if you're a little bit nervous. Like this is a bit heavy, so I may wipe some of it back a little bit here. Just a second, let me grab my. And then just I'm not gonna load any more paint right now. I'm gonna just put the water back on. It'll kind of wash off some of the area where it's a little bit heavy because I don't look at the drip right there. I'm gonna just redo that a little bit here. It's hard because I keep messing with it when really probably should stop and let it dry and then determine if it needs more or less of it. I don't necessarily like just one line of these drips right in one spot. So I'm gonna try to, here we go. Just dab and press my brush against the piece and let those drips fall. I like a drippy look, actually. Even add, like, I might even just do a little bit of the coffee bean now, and this will add a brown drip to it. See, like I want it to be a little bit darker drip, so maybe not all these white looking. So I'm just now seriously just dip my brush a little bit of the coffee bean, and now I'm just kind of layering over that. Especially like up here. Love it. It's pretty. Okay, should we see how that other side looks? See if it needs more or less over here. Oh, look at all those cracks. Oh, cool. That is really neat. Do you guys see all those? Looks like veins. I'm just gonna dip in the coffee bean right now, and then so I'm dipping my brush in the coffee bean, and then I want to do some like right in here, maybe a little more water. Maybe not need that much, that many drips, but just lightly going over it. But then I'm gonna try to get some more drips just in a little less unified way. I don't want to lose those ones right there. I like those actually. Okay, it's pretty, right? Now, yeah, you can't really see sponge marks anymore. Yeah, which, again, that's what, I wasn't going for a sponged look. I didn't want it to look spongy. However, I wanted all that texture, right? So that's why I used the sponges. Because if you saw it in person, you can really see all that texture that I just got. It's almost like you feel like you did it for nothing, but really, it's just that's the process of creating this finish. It's layering and layering and layering and covering up what you did. If I was just to paint this a solid color and then do this technique, it wouldn't look like this, right? Because it has all this variety of colors and textures to it. So we really let that dry. So maybe we'll work on the drawer, the wood part, and see, or I'll show you how I did that. And for that drawer, let me grab it. So for those who are still on here from the beginning, if you saw, I showed you what the drawer looked like just sanded down, bare. That's just bare. On camera it looks better. In person, it's a little too like yellow for me, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's too yellow. So I don't quite love it with the color. So I'm gonna try to go a little bit closer to this color. And this I created with just paint and water. So that looks pretty, right? It could be a little bit darker. I only did one layer of paint and water. I may do another, but I'm also thinking I'm gonna do some shading, right, with my waxes, so that might give it that dimension. Because right now it looks a little like they get lost into each other because they're both very light in color. So that's where I'm saying adding dimension with waxes and stuff really helps. Oh man, okay, let's try doing one of the wood drawers here. And all I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna probably take, I'll take a new brush. New brush, and a chip brush works just fine. And then where's a cup? Some water. Which again, don't need very much. Tend to overdo it. And this color, or for that drawer, I actually used chocolate. So might need a new spoon. Let me see here. Wipe off one of these spoons I got. So, my paint is really getting icky. It's thick. Just a little bit of chocolate. It's so thick. Add it into the water. I could add the vinegar. I don't think the vinegar does anything to the finish. It doesn't make it look any different, I guess, on the wood. So when you first apply it, remember you're getting your raw wood wet. It's gonna look way different applied than how it's gonna look dry. So I've learned that, like, I've kept layering thinking this doesn't look how I thought, and then it dried and it was way, so you just gotta let it dry. Let that wood really dry before you judge if it needs another layer. So again, I'm just making a very watery mixture here. It's basically gonna be my stain. You could also use, Dixie Belle makes a voodoo gel stain that's water-based that works really well. It has like, they have 3 or 4, or they have Tobacco Road I use a lot. Actually, I probably could have used that one, but it's a really pretty muddy color. So, but you know, I have chocolate on hand. I'm going to use that, just a dry brush, and literally all I'm going to do is just brush it on. I may even dip a little bit of my brush into the chocolate just to get a little more paint. So it's sanded, it's clean. I started with a 100 grit, and then 180, 220, 300. Whenever you get your raw wood wet, it does raise the grain a little bit, which can make it feel kind of rough. So sometimes you do have to, after this is dry, do a very light, like 320, just to smooth it up a little bit. I'm just doing a little bit more. And then I'm gonna wipe it off, like just so it's not so drippy too. And I'll try to dry it on air with your, on air, you know what I mean, on the video here, so you can see what it looks like dry. And hopefully it'll look like the other one. I can't recall, I feel like I may have done a little bit of washing, like with white paint and water over that. I can't remember now. Okay, I'm just gonna wipe this off. It's soaking into your wood, so you're not really wiping off what you just did. Well, here's hoping it looks like the one I just did. So let's dry it. And we'll put the drawer in and see how it looks. I think it's going to take another coat, but we'll see. Okay, I probably won't do the whole drying on camera, and it's boring, but get the gist. See that like the top of this was still the raw. I mean, can you see the difference already? Just in doing a little bit of paint and water. That's it. Now that doesn't protect your wood like stain does, but you can top coat it, which I'll use probably like a flat polyacrylic because I don't like really shiny looking wood. I'm trying to put this drawer in for you guys here. And kind of see how it looks with the finish. And we'll see. I'm gonna let it dry. Put the other one in too. Try not to knock over all my paint. Really was sticking. There we go. Yeah, I think I did a little bit of white because seeing it dry, it's still looking quite a bit like the top right now. But I do like that color. So I may do another brown wash over that one. Though again, it's not fully dry, so I don't know. So they're quite a bit different still, but that's what I mean by you have to fully let it dry before you can determine your next step. I'm not liking this one now as much with the finish as say that. So I think I had added white. So I'm gonna go back over it with just brown wash and see if I get it. If not, then I'll just sand it back down again. Yeah, I know I did white because I can see there's white along these crevices. So I don't know that I love that as much. I like this contrast, I think, a little bit better. So we'll see. What do you guys think? I mean, I think I like this one better, but I don't know yet. So I think that's it, unless you guys want to see, we could do some waxing. I'm gonna grab my wax. I don't have it out right now. Was gonna wax inside these details with the dark wax, and then gold. I'll hit it with some gold, just to make it pop like along these little details here around the feet. And then I really think that'll be like, so this is for me. So I guess I can do whatever I want. I could add some transfers to it. Obviously let it fully dry with all that water I was putting on it. And we're putting this over chalk paint. So the chalk paint's really porous anyway. So it's going to take a bit for the wood to really dry up before you want to do transfers over it. But yeah, so that is it, guys. That is creating kind of an old world finish. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to go back and answer any questions. But I think I'm gonna get off of here and finish this up probably off camera, unless, like I said, there's not many of you on right now, but I can sure go ahead and grab some waxes, and that one's not hard. I just take little artist brushes and probably some brown wax, and I'm gonna go on these crevices here. I'm not gonna even top coat it yet because I'm pretty confident I can add the wax. If I don't like it, I can take it back off with baby wipes, but I think it just needs some dimension now, right? Because it just is lacking some dimension. It's pretty, but it needs some dark added in here. It needs some gold. Hopefully I'll get this wood figured out. I'm not certain why it feels like they're way different in color, so I'm hoping I can get it matched to this now. I like this one better, I think. So, and then clean up the hardware and throw that hardware on, and it'll be done. It's really pretty. So, okay guys, well, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new today. And you guys enjoy the rest of your day.